Hey everybody, Brian Zane here with my review of All Elite Wrestling's Fight for the Fallen. This show took place this past Saturday night in Jacksonville, Florida at Daly's Place, which is a concert hall amphitheater type space. I will say before I get into anything else, I loved this venue just because it looked so different and so unique. I'm a sucker for different kind of environments for wrestling shows that go against the traditional like arena setting, and this was definitely that. The amphitheater setting was cool. I'm also a sucker for like venues that let a lot of natural light in, like that kind of different light, the different vibe for a show. It just looks and feels so much different than your typical wrestling show in an enclosed dome, stadium, or arena, and so that always catches my eye. So I really give AEW kudos for the different kind of venue they chose here. It's different, it's unique, I love it. The show was a charity event, by the way. It was established from the very beginning. The proceeds for this show went to the Victim Assistance Advisory Council, so very good on AEW for supporting that cause and helping raise money for victims of gun violence. Also, another positive thing I want to say about the show overall was that the audio quality for entrance themes was greatly improved from the last show they did at Fyter Fest. I complained at that review about how that show there was a lot of like reverberation, a lot of arena sound of the themes, so you couldn't really hear it or make it out. That was addressed and taken care of here at Fight for the Fallen, and there's a big improvement there. Your commentary team for the main shows of Jim Ross, Excalibur, and Alex Marvez, who brings absolutely nothing to this equation here. I think he's probably one of the least effective announcers I've seen on a mainstream show in quite some time. The only thing he contributes to their product right now is that he is better than Excalibur and JR at wincing at certain moves. He's like, ooh, eesh, ugh. Your opening pre-show match is Sonny Kiss taking on the librarian Peter Avalon, who is accompanied by the librarian Leva Bates. And I mentioned in my Fyter Fest review that a lot of the fans at that show at Fyter Fest seem to meet the librarians with a lot of confusion. But here, it only took 2 weeks, but now the librarians are being resoundingly booed. People do not like the librarians here, so at least they're getting a reaction of some kind. Sonny gets a great choreographed entrance with some members of the Jacksonville Jaguars cheerleading squad, as well as the Jaguars mascot, Jackson DeVille, so really cool to see him get that kind of a fancy entrance there. Lots of fun shtick by both men in this matchup. Peter's trying to shh people, Sonny doing the splits and twerking and stuff. The match ends ultimately when Kiss hits a split-legged leg drop from the second rope to win the match. I give this one 1.5 stars. Honestly, the biggest moment of the match for me was Sonny Kiss's entrance. It was definitely the most elaborate part of the whole thing. It was an okay match. That's pretty much all I can say about it. I do like that Sonny's character. He's got a lot of charisma, and the fans are definitely into the gimmick. Like one of the loudest reactions of the show, it seemed, was for Sonny Kiss, like the entire time there. And Peter Avalon, like I said, the librarian thing is kind of picking up steam. Like it went from this thing where it's kind of like universally reviled by a lot of hardcore fans, and now I think they're kind of embracing it, and it's really hard to gauge if it's like, you know, legitimate heat or go away heat. I feel I'm going to make a video about this in the next few weeks about that because it's one of those topics I think needs to be addressed. But I don't think it's go away heat for the librarians. They were definitely booed like heels should be booed. And so yeah, I think it's like it took I'm kind of changing my mind on this now. It feels that the librarians are getting over in a way. In your pre-show main event, it's a ladies tag team match as Dr. Britt Baker DMD teams with Riho to take on Shoko Nakajima and Bea Priestley. Unfortunately, this is not the best showing for the ladies in this event. I will say this is probably the worst ladies match in the short history of All Elite Wrestling. You'll find out why in a little bit. Early on, Britt and Shoko are having a hard time gelling. Their styles don't really mesh that well together. And then Shoko tags in Bea, and here comes the kick. Literally, the first thing Bea Priestley does is kick Britt Baker in the head, and she just goes down. You can tell her bell is rung. That's not how you sell a head kick normally. She's just, you can tell she's out of it. But she is able to wrestle a little bit more for about another minute. And then you might have seen this clip on social media over the weekend. Britt famously, or infamously rather, goes over to the wrong corner to try and tag out. Then she has to haul ass to the other side to tag in her actual partner, Riho. It's a pretty embarrassing moment, but in fairness, she's not all there. And you can tell as soon as she tags out, the referee goes to check on her, and that happens pretty frequently. As the match goes on, Bea and Shoko working over Riho's arm. Britt is able to get back into the ring, which I think was the wrong call. Obviously, hindsight being 2020, Monday morning quarterback, what have you. It's a difficult judgment call to make in the heat of the moment, so I'm not mad that they kept her in, but it's like, man, it's just so obvious. She's barely even able to take a proper bump at this point because she's trying to protect herself. Shoko inadvertently allows her opponents to make a hot tag but the crowd's kind of flat for it. And I always just say, Shoko looks terrible in this match, if I'm being honest. Almost nothing she does looks good here. Virtually every other Joshi I've ever seen, it has this level of speed and intensity and quickness to them, and she's pretty much the opposite of that. She does not have the size to justify a slower style compared to her other contemporaries, I don't think. B and Britt's strike exchange looks worse with every passing moment. Oh my god, what was this diving attack by B? This whole time I'm just yelling, go home! Somebody is hurt, and you have the possibility of getting other people hurt in this match. Just wrap the shit up. And then to make things even weirder, the closed captioning just appears out of nowhere. Whether you selected it to be turned on or not, you're getting closed captioning. It doesn't even look very good. It's all glitchy and stuff. I mean, can this match get any more cursed? We do get a beautiful Northern Lights by Riho and a double stomp, and we get kickouts. Why is this match still going? Shoko misses the diving senton, but hits a Hurricane Rana into a pin and wins from out of nowhere. Well, it took him long enough, but we finally got what looked like a rushed finish after a match that went way too long. I give this one half a star out of 4. This match was a cluster almost from the beginning, and things just kept on breaking down. Again, the very first thing Bea Priestley does is get Britt's bell rung. I do like the focus of Joshi wrestlers in AEW. It's a kind of a cool niche thing they're doing, because kind of like how WCW planted their flag with cruiserweights back in the late 90s, this is kind of a nice showcase of what Japanese female wrestlers are like. And I think it's really cool to introduce casual fans who don't know much about the Japanese style to that genre of wrestling. But man, this match was not the way to go about it. The show officially opens with a 6-man tag as MJF teams with Sammy Guevara and Shawn Spears to take on Darby Allin, Joey Janela, and Jimmy Havoc. Bit of a peculiar spot for MJF to be in with this matchup, because of course he is a super heel in the ring, but on Being the Elite he is like best friends with Cody, whose head got cracked open by Shawn Spears 2 weeks ago at Fyter Fest. So one of the big stories of this match is you can tell these two just in their body language and with their actions later in the match, they do not want to be on the same side of the ring with each other at all. Darby Allin is probably one of the biggest stars that shines in this match. He and Sammy Guevara, I think, have some of the best moments in this thing, standing head and shoulders above everyone else in this match, in my opinion. More tension between MJF and Spears. Friedman clearly mocking Spears, that causes some more friction. Havoc throws MJF into Spears in the corner and has constructed a little launch platform for a superplex to Guevara. Ultimately, Spears hits Allin with the Death Valley driver and wins the match for his team. I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars out of 4. Like I said, I really enjoyed the in-ring work between Allin and Guevara. I liked the storytelling and the body language and stuff between MJF and Shawn Spears, but those two facets are really was what really I enjoyed about the match. Everything else to me was just kind of like, it was there. Solid match overall. One thing I want to say about this match, and it kind of carries over the entire show as well, I feel that all the matches for the entire show seems to be that everything was just kind of a slower pace. I don't know how much the heat in Jacksonville had to contribute to this, but I feel if you watch like a typical WWE match and compared to like every match here in AEW, the pacing between sequences and moves was greatly slowed down. And again, the heat might be a factor as to why that is, but I feel that there's a lot, like everyone was slowing down, but nobody, or very few people at least, were taking time to like use that time between spots to play to the crowd more and get their character over. Some people got it, and like I said, in this case, like as MJF and Shawn Spears definitely filled those gaps. But in this match, and also every other match after this, there's just a lot of like, there's like spot, moment, and like all these moments just kind of like linger for a bit. They're just kind of waiting for the next thing to happen, and no one's taking advantage of those moments of dead air, so to speak, by kind of like doing something to get the crowd riled up. Up next, Allie, former Knockouts champion at Impact Wrestling, takes on Brandi, the CBO, the Chief Brandi Officer of AEW. Before the match officially begins, Awesome Kong makes her way to the ring and stands in Brandi's corner. So to play off what happened at Double or Nothing when she was added to the women's triple threat made into a 4-way, clearly Awesome Kong and Brandi have some sort of business partnership, the exact details of which we are not privy to yet. The whole build for this matchup was really weird to me because, you know, kind of like Cody, Brandi kind of flip-flops between face and heel depending on the storyline and who she's interacting with. I feel that she did some flip-flopping in this one match and the build for it, because if you watched any of Being the Elite or Road to Fight for the Fallen on YouTube, you got these things with Brandi where she has this history of destructive self-doubt that really affected her in her youth as a figure skater or whatever. And so she's got these mental demons, is the phrase they're using here. Mental demons. Can she overcome the mental demons by beating Allie here? And so it's supposed to make you feel sympathetic to her, but then she's a total heel in this matchup and she's got Awesome Kong as her muscle. So was that whole bearing her soul, saying she's got these mental demons, supposed to be a ruse, or not because they kept bringing it up in commentary, so I'm not sure how we're supposed to feel about this. Also, I get the feeling that Brandi does not want to bump here. Like, she doesn't want to get hurt. Both women have issues when it comes to connecting with shots and making them look good. Allie gets the Dragon Sleeper locked in, and Brandi's tapping, but the referee is distracted by Awesome Kong on the apron. Brandi recovers, hits the Bionic Spear to win the match and supposedly exercise her mental demons. They make a point of that in commentary to say, oh, well, she hit Allie with a surgically repaired clavicle, which makes it more powerful, very similar to like Lex Luger back in the day with a forearm and everything. But that's confusing because earlier in the match, you get this point where there's trading forearm shots into each other's collarbones, and Allie, who's hitting Brandi right in the collarbone, ain't selling shit with her arm. Anyway, I give this one 1.5 stars. The match was okay. I would wager it was a stronger showing than the women's tag match we saw in the pre-show, if that's any consolation. After the match, Brandi and Awesome Kong try and put more of a beat down on Allie when Aja Kong emerges. The Joshi legend enters the ring. She's got a long history with Awesome Kong. We have a Kong summit in the ring as Aja and Awesome stare each other down. The referees break it up, and it seems to me like we're going to have a battle of the Kongs. Aja versus Awesome at All Out, and all I can say is, yes please. A 3-team tag match up next where the winner of this match gets to fight the best friends at All Out, and the winner of that match will get a bye in the first round of the AEW Tag Team Championship Tournament. It's a lot to take in here. Anyway, the Dark Order, that's Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, take on Jack Evans and Angelico, and a boy and his dinosaur, Jungleboy and Luchasaurus. They're accompanied by Marco Stunt. So it's a boy and his dinosaur. The Dark Order are flanked by the Creepers in their entrance. One of them is wearing a long sleeve shirt. Now, I've been spoiled already on social media, so I know who's under the mask, but I've watched enough wrestling to know that when a guy comes out wearing like full body concealing clothes like that in the mask, chances are it's another worker under that mask, but more on that later. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus are stupid over in this match, by the way. Dark Order get the cutoff on Jungle Boy. I love Grayson's rolling senton over the top rope onto the apron toward the outside. We also get Evil Uno doing a big swanton from the top as well. Very impressive. Luchasaurus hits a great hot tag, and he's just all over the place, showing off his strength and agility. Marco Stunt makes his presence known. He knocks Angelico off the apron, then gets the top rope and hits Jack Evans with an incredibly high Hurricane Rana. It's a cool move, but it looks staged as fuck because like Jack is standing there forever waiting for Marco to hit the move. They're both standing there together like, hey, what's up? You want to do the spot? Cool, let's go. Whee! So Marco is ejected by the referee, but not until after Luchasaurus launches Marco onto Angelico on the outside. Ridiculous double team powerbomb by Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, but the Dark Order hit Jungle Boy with a fatality to win. And considering they've been feuding with the best friends since Double or Nothing, like it's not a huge surprise that they won this match where the winner gets to face the best friends at All Out. And be that as it may, I give it 3 stars out of 4. Great, exciting work by all 3 teams. And yes, above all else, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus were the stars of this match. Kind of similar in a way to Fyter Fest's pre-show, where Private Party got a big moment to shine, got a lot of good looks. I think Boy and His Dinosaur was a very similar camp with this particular matchup. I hope to see more greatness from both of those teams, actually, in the future. 2 weeks ago at Fyter Fest, Hangman Page won a fatal 4-way to determine who would face Kip Sabian at Fight for the Fallen. That match is coming up next, and all I could think of when this match was beginning was, shouldn't Hangman Page be wrestling some more of the upper tier guys in AEW right now? It seems to me like Cody and the Bucks and Kenny Omega have kind of taken all these upper talents for themselves early on, and it's kind of leaving a Hangman Page in the lurch, so to speak, because like, he's one of your top 2 contenders for your world title coming up. That match is happening at All Out, and I feel that like he's not, it's kind of doing a disservice to wrestle Sabian here. Nothing against Sabian, but I don't think Kip Sabian's on that same level as like CIMA and Chris Jericho and all these other guys that, you know, the elite right now are facing. Hangman Page is kind of the odd man out here. It's a pretty even contest early on. Sabian has a dive to the outside. As he's resting, he's being berated by a fan who's getting in his face, and Sabian responds probably the best way to do it now with a kiss. Good on him. Great athleticism by Page as well. Big ass moonsault by Page to the outside. Appears to re-injure his knee, which is a constant thing the announcers are talking about throughout the course of this matchup. Running powerbomb onto the ramp, which that looked ridiculous, and somehow Sabian's able to get back in the ring before he's counted out. Followed by a swinging neckbreaker off the top rope. Sabian somehow still kicks out with less than a minute to go in the 20-minute time limit. Page hits the Deadeye to win the match. I give this one 2.5 stars out of 4. I think it was a good match, but I just am confused by the booking of how it went down. Because if your goal is to make Kip Sabian, if you're trying to build him up to be one of those like upper tier guys like I mentioned, then sure, a 50-50-ish competitive match between these two makes all the sense in the world. However, considering we are this close to All Out, I feel that this match helps Sabian less than it hurts Page, because, like I said, you're trying to build this guy up as a future star and a world beater and the next world champion, and you're having him like in this real tooth and nail battle with someone who's, again, I like Sabian's work, but he's not on the level of Chris Jericho in terms of where he is in his social standing and the hierarchy and everything. So if he's having this much of a hard time with Sabian, how's he going to hold himself against Chris Jericho? And I get that this is like part of like the journey for Page, where he's going through all these really tough opponents. So when he potentially does win the belt at All Out, then it will make the victory that much sweeter. However, I feel that they're making Page give up too much in these matches. He's looking like he's making the other guys look too good, and in the end, it's not making him look good as he's going into the match with Chris Jericho. I feel like the crowd is kind of softening on him as well. I mean, in a show which got a lot of big pops for different things, Page's reaction when he came out for his match wasn't superstar worthy. It wasn't future of the company worthy, let's just say. Like I said, Page seems to be, for being a member of the Elite, Page is on this different level, it seems, from Cody and the Bucks and Omega, and it kind of shows right here. Anyway, after the match, one of the creepers we saw from the previous match shows back up. He is the one who's dressed in a full-length, bodysuit, it seems. He beats up Page, the unmask happens, and it's Chris Jericho. Adoy! Your next match sees Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky of SCU taking on the Lucha Brothers. I'll say this right off the bat, and I'm going to try and have this not impact the rating I give for this matchup, but as a general thing, I just don't really like the first few minutes of any Lucha Brothers match, because it's all just like shtick and pantomime revolving around the Cero Miedo thing he keeps doing, and like, we get it. You can do the hand gesture. Everyone knows how to say it. Let's just please wrestle. Christopher Daniels, who isn't officially in the match, gets a chop from Penta, but he hits him back with an Arabian moonsault before he gets ejected. Lots of great high flying by the Luchadors in this matchup, countered by some seamless double teamwork by SCU. Kazarian's top rope DDT was awesome. Match ends with a giant stomp by Penta onto Scorpio Sky. The Lucha Brothers finally pick up their first win in AEW. I give this match 3.5 stars out of 4. I said I wouldn't let the whole Cero Miedo thing affect my rating, and I'm glad they were able to kind of restrain themselves this time around, as opposed to the match they had at Fyter Fest, where I felt like that was the first like 10 minutes of the match of that whole thing. Anyway, I think that these two teams, I should say, did a really great job. I think their styles mesh perfectly well. The lucha stylings of the Lucha Brothers against the somewhat more grounded yet still acrobatic stylings of SCU, really working to perfection here. Exciting match from beginning to end, really enjoyable match. After the match, Daniels checks on his friends, but the Lucha Brothers produce a color-coordinated ladder and beat Daniels up with it, and so SCU goes running. They plant the ladder in the middle of the ring and climb up to the top of it and cut a promo. They're challenging the Young Bucks to a ladder match at All Out, and I'm all for that. Like, I do enjoy the Young Bucks Lucha Brothers matches, and now that a ladder's being involved, sky's the limit. I'm really excited to see where this one goes. In your semi-main event, Kenny Omega takes on CIMA in singles actions, billed as kind of a dream match, sort of an irresistible force meeting an immovable object kind of thing. Two guys with very similar, fast-paced, hard-hitting styles with some high-flying sprinkled in. Crazy sunset flip powerbomb out of the corner by CIMA. Goes for the Meteora, but he misses. Omega goes for the moonsault, but CIMA puts the knees up. CIMA dropkicks Omega off the apron and into the barricade. He follows him out, but Omega jumps him, begins attacking the leg. More fighting on the outside. At this point, the audience is reacting to something very different from what's going on in the match. And the announcers even acknowledge it, which is kind of a rare thing to see in wrestling anymore. They don't tell us what it is they're actually reacting to. My guess is something beach ball related. Anyway, that calms down just in time for them to see CIMA dive off the staging area and hitting Omega with a Meteora on the timekeeper's table, which looks very impressive. And then it becomes kind of a Meteora party. They go back in the ring and CIMA hits one from behind, then again from the front. He goes for another one, but Kenny catches it and hits him with a V-trigger, the first V-trigger of the match. And yeah, but CIMA's just busting out all the Meteoras. It becomes his primary offense here. Kind of how I feel about Kenny Omega using the V-trigger too much in a match. I feel he was really kind of hurting the Meteor here, considering that he only used it one time 2 weeks ago at Fyter Fest against Christopher Daniels and won. So you've already killed the magic of that move by busting it out so many times in this matchup here. We get a slap fight. CIMA kicks out of the Tiger Driver 98 with a one-winged angel, and Omega wins his first singles match in AEW. I give this one 2.5 stars. I would have ranked it higher. The match did start out really strong for me, but like I said, I think he was going to the well one too many times with the Meteora after Meteora after Meteora. Really made things one-dimensional near the end of the match, and that kind of stuck in my craw. I feel the match, probably it would have been unnecessary to do so many of those if the match weren't as as long, and I know that the length of matches is kind of it's become an increasingly common complaint about Omega matches over the last couple of years. I feel this one, it was probably, I would say probably the right length, or maybe a little bit too long, if at all. But yeah, I think if it were a little shorter, we wouldn't have seen so many Meteoras. Chris Jericho returns to the ring, no longer disguised as a creeper from the Dark Order. He has been given an open mic and he wants to vent his frustrations about Hangman Page and that AEW World Title match coming up next month at All Out. He calls Jacksonville Jack Offville. Ooh, so cutting. He also references the blood on his hands, the blood of Adam Page, which looks very purple for some reason. He talks about how Page won the Battle Royal Double or Nothing, and he runs down some of the other people that were in the match, like the man with no legs and the Brandon Cutler, who is the Young Bucks Cabana Boy. And so he basically says that he has to beat the Hangman. It's the phrase he just repeats over and over. I have to beat the Hangman. I have to beat the Hangman. He then calls Adam Page a little bitch. That allows Page to come out and kind of get a receipt on Jericho for what happened earlier. We get a bit of a brawl, a bit of a knocky-draggy. The referees and Jerry Lynn show up to break things up. We see other wrestlers trying to join the pull-apart. Peter Avalon, my favorite part about this is Peter Avalon's one of the guys who's breaking up the fight, and you hear the crowd going, shh, when he's out there. So you know what? I think the librarian shtick is getting over. It's a pretty solid promo by Jericho here. Not his best, but it's a perfectly good job laying out everything you need to know about their match at All Out for the world title. Good to see Page coming out and getting a shot back at Jericho for what happened earlier in the night. It was probably the best he looked in the night so far, even though the audience response to him when he came out running was still pretty tepid, unfortunately. In your main event, Dustin and Cody Rhodes team up for the first time in over 4 years to take on the Young Bucks in a bit of an exhibition match. After their bloody encounter at Double or Nothing in Las Vegas, Cody and Dustin made up because Cody said, I don't need a partner, I don't need a friend, I need my older brother to take on the Young Bucks at Fight for the Fallen. So they have this big emotional hug moment in the ring. Very wonderful thing, but on being the elite over the last couple of weeks, the Young Bucks have been kind of taking the piss and been kind of mocking the Rhodes brothers for that kind of stuff. And so it's further complicating things. It's more than a little friendly tussle between friends. The Bucks, the consummate professionals and businessmen they are, seem to forget where the hard cam is during their entrance. Early on, we get some good work by Cody and Nick Jackson, lots of dodging each other's big moves. Double teaming by the Rhodes, followed immediately by some from the Bucks. The Bucks mock the Rhodes hug from Vegas. We get a twisting cross body by Rhodes, which is always fun to see. Cody gets a hot tag, begins to crack Matt in the back with a weight belt. Things slow back down once the Rhodes take over, but the Bucks do pick things back up. Double sunset flip into a double sharpshooter on the Rhodeses. We get a Meltzer driver attempt blocked by Cody with a disaster kick. We get an assisted double team crossroads, but the pinfall is broken up. A super kick party turns into a power slam party for a time. Dustin said in a couple of interviews before this that he will power slam the souls out of the Young Bucks. Not sure he met that goal, but there were power slams definitely getting tossed around here. Cody is weakened. He gets a double super kick to the back of his head, but Dustin breaks the pinfall up. Everyone's trading signature moves now. There's a Meltzer driver on Cody, and the Bucks win this match. It's unlike any other Young Bucks match I've ever seen. Certainly the slowest Young Bucks match I think we've ever seen here. It's still probably told the best story out of any other match on the show. Earlier how I talked about how a lot of matches felt slow and there were just a lot of opportunities to play to the crowd and get the crowd involved that we didn't get to see because they didn't take advantage of it. These guys did. I think they understand that better than anybody. So I think this match definitely filled those gaps in very well. Dustin looks incredibly well still at the age of 50. He looked great. He didn't show any signs of slowing down from what we saw hanging with the Young Bucks figuratively and literally. After the match, Matt gets on the microphone and says all the needling over the last few weeks was all about just the spirit of competition, and he puts the Rhodeses over as one of the best tag teams they've ever faced. Kenny Omega's music hits and we get Omega, Jungleboy, Luchasaurus, Brandi, Shad Khan. They all come out and Shad's holding a big old novelty check and he reveals they've raised $150,000 for the Victim Assistance Advisory Council, which is a great move. Then Cody gets on the microphone and says, I don't know if we're still on the air, but you can't counter-program what we're doing. Like, you know, I'm willing to give Cody the benefit of the doubt after Double or Nothing when he smashed the throne and said, I wasn't taking a shot at Triple H. Like, fine, we'll believe you this time. But guys, quit poking the bear. And I know that WWE put in the Evolve show as counter-programming to this benefit show, this charity show for victims of gun violence. Yes, the optics for WWE look bad in that case. But just like, why do you keep doing that? Why do you keep acknowledging the competition? I'm one of those people that thinks you probably shouldn't be doing that, especially in your infancy, especially when, you know, people in glass houses, so to speak, when the shows have enough problems of their own, they really shouldn't be trying to punch up at WWE just yet, I feel like. Wait until TV or something, but not in this infancy stage. You know, Double or Nothing had this huge amount of momentum and hope and build for AEW in the aftermath, but I feel the last couple of free shows we've been seeing on BR Live have had their issues, and a lot of that momentum has kind of been, they've been losing their grip on their momentum, so to speak. Still some production issues that need to be addressed, commentary needs to be tighter, making more references to what happened on Being the Elite, I think, as matches go on, would help a lot in further explaining why these matches are happening. We see a couple of clips here and there about Being the Elite, but since that is your primary promotional arm for AEW at this point, and a lot of people still don't watch Being the Elite, might be helpful to invoke some more of that as they're talking about why these guys are fighting in general. I will say that they're doing a good job on these shows alone of building toward All Out. They set up a lot of big matches on this show, doing a great job introducing and highlighting new characters like Sonny Kiss in his first singles match, like a boy and his dinosaur in like a straight up tag team match. Like, that's all great stuff. And don't get me wrong when I criticize this stuff either, because I'm still very much a big supporter of AEW. I definitely want that company to succeed and really establish itself as the alternative, or just a different place for wrestling fans can go to watch wrestling. I love how diverse their roster is. I love that they are giving these people a chance that you normally wouldn't see in WWE. I have many colleagues of mine who are currently working for AEW, so I want them to do well as well. I just think that, you know, there are some issues that need to be addressed. I don't feel they're ready for television based on the production we're seeing from the last couple of free shows. Some things need to be addressed. Some of the wrestling needs to be addressed. There's definitely some question marks, but I'm still definitely intrigued for All Out. The stage has been set for many of the big matches on that show. This is the big show upon which everything has been building. So the hope is they'll be able to capitalize and maybe kind of ramp up the hype and momentum once again, kind of like what they did for Double or Nothing, and remind us why AEW was so widely hyped in the beginning. I'm still very excited to see what they can pull out at the end of August. But let me know what you thought about Fight for the Fallen in the comments section below, and leave a letter grade up here in the iCard in the upper right hand corner of your screen. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.